Welcome to The Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about San Francisco 49ers football season getting started this weekend. You know, we're going to talk about that NFL. You know some people are going to get mad. I don't care. Josh Mansfield, Charlie Eisenhood with you. Worlds Recap Part 2 coming your way today. Josh, what's happening?
Nothing much. So, Charlie, we'll just hit you with the quick question right off the bat. Bills or Rams tonight?
Oh, that's games tonight, isn't it? Wow,
that is game tonight. Yep, kickoff. Great kickoff game, by the way. But
is it on Amazon or is it?
Yeah, I think it's their new Amazon Thursday Night Football.
Now, I caught some of the Amazon broadcast during the preseason. It was good. I mean, they clearly just like hired a normal NFL production company, and like they got a couple little graphics things that are pretty interesting. I'm going. I think I have money on this game. I'm going Bills. Yeah. I think the Bills are going to have a great season. I think I took the Bills minus 2.5, if I recall correctly.
Bills are the clear Super Bowl favorites going into this season, and Rams are getting faded pretty hard in the power rankings. So I agree with you there.
Well, I don't like the Rams as a 49ers fan.
That's fair.
Let's get it going. I'm excited. I've been tired of baseball, and disc golf playoffs are still to come. So we gotta wait a little bit. So it's gonna be nice to get some more sports on the menu here this fall. Worlds, we're talking Worlds kind of like miscellaneous today. We've got some mailbag stuff. We're going to be talking about many of the sort of peripheral things around Worlds. And then we've got a great segment, This or That, where we dig into some more of the highlight moments of the week and talk about which one we think fits the criteria best. We're also going to look ahead to this weekend's Silver Series event, make our picks, of course, and talk about what it means for the playoffs. Josh, it's playoff beard time.
Yes, sir.
So here we are. Already got the beard going a little bit.
Mine's going to probably trim just a touch, and then I'll grow it out the rest of the month. So. Perfect.
We don't technically have to start until next week.
That's right.
Okay, so let's get rolling here. I want to start, Josh, with a little discussion about the media coverage, because always a big topic. And, obviously I was involved with the live production on the FPO side. So I want to ask you, what was your media consumption pattern and what did you think of what you saw? Let's start with that.
Yeah. So I really had two consumption patterns during my week. I had a busier week at work than I was expecting. A couple other obligations. Had to go to Montana. So I was able to catch like 15, 20-minute segments throughout the rounds. So usually a total of between an hour to an hour and a half of coverage every day, at least, in the live broadcast. But I always had my UDisc scoreboard up on my second monitor. So I was watching the scores, and then if something looked like it was interesting that had just happened, I would pull up the live really fast and then try and see if I could catch the replay. So I was watching it pretty carefully. Last 2 days, so Friday, Saturday, I watched both streams all the way through, full rounds. I was really impressed with the DGN coverage in a lot of ways. I really think that the camera operators especially did an excellent job. I know we're going to talk a little bit more about courses later, but I think that they're one of the perks of having courses like this is it's really easy to set up. You know where the landing zones are. You know where most shots are going to go. It's what makes Anthony Barella's shot so impressive, where they did the turnaround on hole 17. But overall, I mean, I thought the cameras were well done, and overall production was pretty good. And I am enjoying the live experience as like every tournament, except for the random hiccups, I feel like it gets improved. So,
yeah, I thought the from my side of things, I thought the direction and production was quite good. Drove the storylines effectively, and saw a lot of golf. I mean, really saw a lot of golf. I mean, that's, I think, the benefit of these bigger events, and they had some fixed cameras out on particular holes, meant that it was just like, we're watching golf the whole time. You're not sitting and talking about, some stat for 30 seconds. Like, mostly you're seeing golf, and there's, in some cases it's almost feels like it's too much, but that's a good problem to have. Like people want to watch the players play the golf. So, any commentary thoughts?
Well, Charlie, I mean, I've got to echo the Reddit thread that just says you are the voice of disc golf, I think is what one. I don't know if that was the title or if that was just a comment in there. Charlie, I think you're an excellent commentator. And a lot of people mention and talk about your experience with Ultimate and that, it's a process. And how long have you been calling Ultimate live?
I think I did my first game in 2013.
Yeah, so I mean, you've
almost
been doing
10
this
years.
Almost 10 years, and it's a set of skills that I think you get to bring over. I actually think it's a benefit to call a different sport, a similar but different sport, and then move over, because it gives you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it gives you the opportunity to kind of see the general, here are the good skills and things that you would see in a broadcast, and then specify it to the sport. I think you did an excellent job. I think when Terry Miller is prepared and in position, and I don't even think it's Terry Miller's fault, right? I think at times it gets called down to him and he just was not expecting it. But when the interaction between Terry and the producer and the broadcasters is good, I think Terry Miller is excellent on the course. I think he adds good insight, and I really like him there. I like Brian Earhart's commentary. I personally like Val. I think Val is a good personality on air, and the problem, I think, okay, on the FPO side, I find Elaine King to be very dry. I struggle to get engaged with what she says and to really get excited about her analysis, because it doesn't, for me, engage me as a color commentator. Val has a better personality for it, and I really enjoy it, but I don't think she's as technical as other color commentators, and that disappoints me. So it's weird, because Val and Elaine have different strengths, but the problem is it's not like they compensate for each other well enough, because I have individual struggles with both of them. And then Nate Doss and Ian Anderson both, they say so many things that are just obvious truths. Whoever gets the most birdies is going to win this weekend, I think was a direct quote on the broadcast this weekend. And it's yes, whoever finds themselves inside the circle the most is going to win this weekend, and is going to shoot well. And it's of course, thank you. And then this is the thing that bugged me the most is, oh man, what's the par 5 on MPO that sets up for the eagle looks?
It's in the back 9.
Mm-hmm. It's one Ricky missed and then went laid on
he
the
had
fence.
the eagle putt, right? I think it's 6. Is it? No, it's not 16. Obviously, it's 14 or 15. I mean, I guess we could look at UDisc and see 14, which hole is the 5. I think it's 14.
14 is the only 5. So
yeah,
it's gotta be that one. So on hole 14, McBeth and Gossage both play for the birdie. They don't go for eagle. And Nate Doss goes, "This may seem like boring golf, folks." And I'm like, don't say that. don't. Number one, we're in a tightly contested battle in the final round of Worlds. But number two, even if that's true, that's your job. That's your job to make that interesting and intriguing. Then don't. Yes, and we'll talk more about the courses, but don't It almost felt condescending. Yeah, I know it's boring, but let me tell you why there's actually some interest here. And I'm that's just do your job and make it interesting. So I don't know. I really like Brian. I really like you. I do like Val. And then I struggle with the other. I really like Terry Miller on the course too. Anyway, there's my honest thoughts. So
honest thoughts from Josh. Well, I appreciate the nice things you have to say. I think I'll say this just as a general note about commentating. It's hard. It's really hard.
Yes.
I think to defend Nate Doss a little bit.
Sure.
I think the point when he says, I know this can seem kind of boring, but here's like the technical reasons that this is actually very interesting. I mean, I get the point he's trying to make there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's be honest. A lot of people coming into this tournament were talking about the fact that these courses were not going to be up to snuff, and we'll get to the courses in a second. But his point is that like the technical skills to be placing these shots in these landing zones, even on wide open fairways, is a real test of the players, especially under the pressure that they were under. You know, I think it's a lot to be on the air for like 4 hours a day for 5 straight days. And in regular golf coverage, no one's talking that much. Like, number one, they just are talking less, which I think all of us can do more of that. But I also think that, you know, they have somebody on hole 12 and somebody on hole 15 and somebody on hole 16 and somebody on hole 17. Like, they have different commentators for many of the holes.
Yeah.
So you're not just going to have one person there talking the whole time. And it does make it harder. You have to fill the airtime. Sometimes you're going to say stuff that is slightly wrong or that is slightly obvious. And finding that balance can be tricky.
I completely agree. I think, you know, as the old saying goes, those who can't do commentate and those who can't commentate podcast, right? So like, don't get me wrong. I would make a fool of myself in live commentary. I think that would be, it's an incredibly difficult skill. I think the point though, is it doesn't feel like week to week, the commentary improves often. It doesn't feel like it's trending upwards, that it's, you know, it feels very much the same as it did at the beginning of the season. I think things that you see online, the comments that you see, the reactions to the commentary are largely similar to what they were in February at LVC. And that's a concern for me, because I feel like as DGN continues to increase its viewers, you had 50,000 people. We're going to get to this. Shoot. I'm sorry, Charlie.
Right no,
I spoiled
get to it right now.
I spoiled the big numbers.
There's no spoilers on the upshot. We don't worry about that. Yeah, I get your point. Let's get to the numbers.
Okay, let's get to the numbers, and then I'll finish my point.
Courtesy of Mahmoud Barani, head producer at DGN, 2022's concurrent live streaming numbers for the final round. In MPO, it was just shy of 50,000, 49,929 people. That's up 34% over last year, when it set an all-time high for that year, 37,238. So now we've seen, this is the most watched disc golf broadcast ever, 49,929. So FPO, final round. Now, keep in mind, it was not a competitive race. Kristen had already basically locked it up. I mean, you know, there's like some inkling that you're like, well, maybe. But then she was like, nah, I'm going to go ahead and shoot 8 down in the front 9. 19,516. That's up 17.5% from 2021. So the most watched FPO broadcast of all time. So there you go. Thoughts on those numbers, Josh?
It's incredible. 50,000 people were watching the final round of MPO at the same time. And the fact that 20,000 tuned in to an FPO round that was settled after round 4 is just incredible. That in and of itself, I think, is excellent. And I think in a closer world, those numbers probably go up, because you have, I'm sure you had people who just were watching UDisc and said, I'll watch the back 9 if it's close. And then it just never was. So they never jumped on. I do that at tournaments sometimes when there isn't a lead. There usually isn't a large enough lead. That's something that's pretty rare. So for it to be at Worlds is even cooler. But 50,000 people in MPO is an incredible number that DGN just must be so thrilled about. And that allows me to return to my point. I don't know what the subscriber numbers look like right now, but you've got to imagine that in that 50,000, at least half are watching the free YouTube round and may not be subscribers.
That is true. I actually have the breakdown.
Sweet.
The number of people watching on DGN for MPO was 14,000. So about 2/3, more or less, a little more than 2/3 were watching on YouTube.
Okay, so 35,000 people are watching on YouTube, and that's 35,000 YouTube streams, right? So who knows how many people are watching that final round?
Many more than that,
right?
I think it's fair to say.
I think so too. You need to deliver a product that makes those people think to themselves, oh, I'm going to watch live. Maybe they don't subscribe yet. Maybe it's just final round, free on YouTube. But you need those people watching at GMC and at MVP and at the Pro Tour Championship. And you need to deliver a product where it's not because here's the problem. The golf is not always going to justify getting on to watch. In FPO, except for the fact of watching Kristen compete incredibly and just watching an incredible performance from Kristen, the competition wasn't there. The excitement, the drama wasn't there from the golf.
Sure.
And that's going to happen. It's, welcome to sports. There are going to be blowouts. You need to have a product that's so compelling that it doesn't take a playoff showdown between the goat and the goose in order to get 50,000 people there. That's the kind of product you have to deliver. And I've talked about this before. I love esports. I'm a big esports fan in addition to traditional sports. Overwatch has pairs of casters that are so good that there are people who will watch matches they otherwise wouldn't watch because they love listening to those commentators and feel like they add so much to even uninteresting and uncompetitive games. It's the same reason that some people choose Jomez over live coverage is because they relate to and enjoy the personalities who cover. Now, I'm not saying you have to have, it has to be Big Sexy Barry and you have to go all in on the personalities of commentators. The sports doesn't do that typically, but I think that there is a meaningful value in having commentators that people really enjoy that can supplement weaker golf times in order to keep those spectator and viewership numbers up.
I think it's all well said. We're still in the early years of commentating,
We are.
Live commentary. For a long time, it was Terry, and he's good.
He is.
He's good. He's great on the course, and he's very good in the booth. That's my personal thought. And then there, it was Terry, and I forget who used to do it with Terry now that I'm trying to think back on it. But, it was basically just him and random pros who were on the course with him because mostly they were doing it from the course.
Yeah.
I remember when I heard Nate Doss do the Memorial because he got hurt. And so he went with Terry and did commentary. And I was like, wow, Nate Doss is really good. And I think they're and so then Nate Doss and Val, I had some fascinating conversations with them about getting the commentary set up for the early years of, I think even before it was called Disc Golf Network, with Steve Dodge on the Pro Tour. I mean, it's great. What they have gone through to put together this broadcasting is unimaginable. I mean, they got paid in pizza for years. Pizza. Okay. They have really paid their dues. Nate does a lot of the back end, putting together all of the engineering on the commentary side. So there's a lot that goes into this kind of stuff. And but I think it's fair to say that the sport has still not found its commentators.
Yes.
We don't have, who does the most golf? Jim Nantz. There are people who do golf coverage who have become, legendary golf commentators. Scott Van Pelt for ESPN. They are very, very good. And you get used to hearing them year after year after year. I mean, how many years of good quality DGN have we had? 2?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even exaggerating. It's just think about it. Our time is warped because there's so much coverage. But I think commentary still has a long way to go. And it's going to be a natural progression towards finding the right voices.
Yep.
And some of the people that are going to be great and do it in the future are still playing. Nate Sexton is going to be a staple live disc golf commentator if he chooses to be so, because he's extremely good.
Yep.
And it's just a matter of when he decides that he wants to do it. And obviously he already does it a little bit. But I mean, he can be one of the primary analysts.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on. Jomez, of course, was there.
Speaking of difficulty of live
drama. Yeah. Jomez did a live to tape recording with a studio audience in Emporia for the final round of Worlds coverage. And they streamed this. I did not watch the stream, so I can't speak to it, but people were not happy. Apparently, the quality of the video was poor relative to what they're used to. Well, yes, it got rung through the live encoding ringer, and they had some audio issues. In particular, it seems that Paul Ulibarri's mic just simply was not on or did not work, and he was only getting picked up on the other microphones.
The room mics.
They used the wrong mics for live coverage in a big room. And there's a lot of reverb and hollowness to the audio. You can hear that if you go and you watch the live coverage as it is right now on YouTube. And I guess it was just kind of a mess, the whole live production side of it. And it's just, to me, I'm not here to kill Jomez for this. They're trying something totally new and different. I think it's a cool concept to try to have let people buy a ticket and come out and watch the commentary happen live. I mean, it's sort of like a weird thing. You could just watch DGN, but whatever. And what I think it shows me, and it should show everybody, is that guess what? It's really hard to do live coverage well. And that's in a situation where all they're really doing is playing back the video that they've already produced and layering in audio. That's it. And yet it was still bumpy.
Yep.
It's hard. Okay. People who do not appreciate DGN do not understand how much it's improved, number one, and how hard it is to do it well. And I mean, it really, for the level of production budget that they have, it's a most of the time an excellent product.
I think we got an email. I think that's where it was. I'd have to go find it. I apologize for not pulling it. But there was an email from a listener who talked about he was a production assistant. It was either that or it was on Reddit. One of the two.
I know what you're talking about. It was on Reddit.
Was it on Reddit? Yeah, okay. He's on Reddit.
Somebody who works in actual pro broadcast.
Yeah, he's a what I don't remember what sport he does, but in the van helping pro broadcasting, and he's talking about how the production budget of DGN compared to the big production companies for golf, for example, is just exponentially larger for professional production, and the quality that DGN achieves, given the logistical challenges of disc golf and the budget constraints, is just phenomenal work. And I think that's something else to remember, is when you look at the actual amount of money that you have, DGN really is a great product. The big thing I want to point out here on the Jomez side, though, and this is what I find interesting. When we talked to Jonathan Gomez and asked him about kind of where does he see the future of post and live and commentary, and he says, I feel like there's a place for both. I think he's right. I think there are going to be people who watch post, and I saw one Reddit comment talk about Europeans who are asleep during final rounds and really appreciating post produced for those guys, and that makes complete sense. But the company that is known for is the champion of excellent post produced coverage, choosing to run a live show as well. It says something. It says something about what people want and about the interest levels and people wanting to participate live while the action is happening. And if you I don't know, I just am not compelled by the idea that, the superiority of post-produce when your post-produced giant is dabbling in live. It's a little odd to me, to be honest. And I mean, the biggest thing about Jomez, and I think this has been proven true in like this year most recently, above all else, is that Jomez is not in the business of just selling post produce. They're in the business of selling big sexy Barry commentary. That's what they sell. They have three media personalities that people really enjoy, and it's why things like the practice rounds have expanded. And
Yes.
you know, I know people who watch the practice rounds religiously but then watch live coverage, and that may very well be where Jomez finds its home, is in having those dynamic personalities from professionals who are still touring pros that they bring over. And maybe if you know, highlight it, maybe it becomes like highlights, right? Where it's a 20-minute highlights show where the pros are commentating the highlights from the round rather than a full post-produced round. I don't know exactly where it's going to go, but it's just odd to me that Jomez is doing a live show.
I think you already described why it isn't odd. It's because there's power in the experience of things happening in real time.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Let's talk about the Spectators. Final day. I said it all week. It was going to be good. It was good.
It was good. It was good.
It was good, right? I mean, fairways were lined. I mean, it's not European Open, but come on, folks. Like, let's have realistic expectations. We're in Emporia, Kansas. We're 90 minutes from any city, and we're hours from major metros.
Yeah.
So I think it was pretty impressive final day crowds. However, first 4 days, brutal. Just brutal. I mean, sub 100 people some days, it felt like. I'm sure it was more than that, but like, you know, you'd go to the first tee for MPO lead card and there were not that many people like watching them tee off.
Yeah.
And we talked about it all week on our Rapid React shows. And, you know, I think from what we've heard from spectators who were there, it was mostly a good experience. Well, you know, lined fairways, clear delineations of where you could be. There was food for sale. There were bathrooms. You know, I'm sure there were things that could be improved, but mostly it was totally fine. But the ticket decision making to only have single day tickets available for the final day, they did start selling other single day tickets later in the week after I think they realized that they had screwed up, but like that was not really communicated very much.
No.
I actually heard a story from a credible source. I'm not going to name them because didn't ask them if I could name them. There were some folks who came, parents, I think, of a player, and they just came and they were like, "Hey, like we want to go out on the course," and they were turned away and told that they couldn't go because they didn't have they refused to sell them a ticket. Because like you had to have this particular $100 multi-day ticket, and so they just like didn't get to go. So that was just I mean, think about how nonsensical that must be, even for the person who's being like, "No, you can't come. I will not sell you a ticket to this event that is happening right now." And so obviously a total disaster. So I have an email to read from Nathaniel.
Okay.
He says, "I live in Kansas City and was extremely excited to hear that Worlds was only going to be about an hour away from me. I talked quite a bit about going and anticipated when tickets would be out for sale. I was Googling and looking for tickets for weeks before they finally started selling them. I was extremely surprised to see that the cheapest ticket I could buy was for $100, and I would need to purchase one for my wife as well. $200 for tickets is not something I could afford. I even messaged the event staff asking about single-day tickets, and they said that none would be available except for Saturday. I was planning to go on Wednesday because that was the only day I had free with my job. I decided to look into volunteering for a day, thinking that surely I would get free admission for the day that I volunteer. After filling out the form and emailing back and forth with the event staff, I was told that volunteers do not get free admission. The only way you could volunteer and get to see the actual event was if you were an on-course volunteer. In the end, I decided not to volunteer and did not have the finances to spend $200 on tickets. I truly believe that by not offering single-day tickets, they missed out on hundreds, if not thousands of spectators coming from Kansas City, even during the weekdays." So there you go. I mean, that's obviously just an anecdotal number. Who knows how many people were in Nathaniel's shoes, but it's non-zero.
Mm-hmm.
$100 is too much to ask for someone who can only come for one day.
Yep.
I have no idea who made this decision, but how did that happen? It's just a complete failure to think about the basic things of like event. Like, why would you not sell single day tickets? Like, even if you only have a limited amount, sell some. It's just, I don't understand.
Imagine standing there, course empty, and parents showing up and being like, "Hey, we want to watch our kid. Can we get a ticket?" And being like, "Nah, it's not a thing." And you're like, "But there's nobody there." Take my money. And then they're like, "Nah, that's okay. We don't need the money." And then someone else being like, "Well, okay, what if I just like, can I come like spot a hole for you? I'll sit there all day and just spot on one hole." And they're like, extra spotters. Yeah, you're gonna have to buy the week pass, man. That's all we can do. It's the best we can do.
Listen, I've said it before on the show, and I'm going to say it again. The model should definitely be like it is for music festivals, where volunteers get a week-long pass. Mm-hmm. If somebody comes out and works for you for free at your tournament, they should get to enjoy the rest of the week, or at least the rest of the day, completely free. Like, what? And I don't know what the volunteer situation was. We got this email from Nathaniel. I haven't confirmed this with the TDs. It's very possible that you could request to be an on-course volunteer. Maybe you get randomly assigned. I don't know. But the fact that somebody who wanted to come out on a Wednesday to go to Worlds and was willing to pay, and yet was priced out because of the decision-making on the pricing structure, and was also unable to get a volunteer position that would allow them to then watch the rest of the round or something like that, doesn't make any sense at all. We want the course to be filled.
Yes.
We want to have... I'll give you another small example. Again, I don't want to put names to this because I think it doesn't... it could be a problem if I do. But there was a business entity at Worlds that brought another business entity out to kind of see the event from kind of like external to disc golf. Mm-hmm. Okay. So like not a disc golf company. And they were embarrassed to bring them out to this and have there just be nobody there. I mean, it was tough. It was tough for the broadcast. It was tough for the environment.
Yeah.
Like for most of the week, it didn't feel like a world championship out on the course. It just didn't.
And I mean, when I was in
obviously, I will say this. Sorry, last thing.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
They sold single day tickets for one day, and it was packed.
It was packed. When I was in Calgary in college, I looked up and I was able to find, they were nosebleed seats, but I found seats to a Flames ticket, to a Flames game for $25. I'm sorry, if I can go to a professional NHL game, I know I can get Jazz tickets for a similar price if you get, if it's an undesirable game and bad seats, but that's the point, right? Wednesday is kind of an undesirable day, all things considered. And even lead day, especially where the cards are shuffled and like your feature card that you're following, if you're following a card, probably isn't, as jam packed, or even after day one, like sell those tickets for cheap and just what you're saying. I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't get it.
It was a big mistake. I will say this. They were still figuring out pricing and demand levels and what the right price is. Last year, Worlds was $50 for the week. Boom. Mm-hmm. That's a great price, especially for somebody who wants to go for multiple days. That's a great situation. It was $40 for Saturday tickets here, and they obviously sold plenty of them. But $40 for, round one is probably a little too much to ask. I think, what we're seeing at DGPT events, which generally makes sense, is that tickets tend to go up in price. Single day tickets go up in price over the course of the week.
Great.
They also have like a full pass to the whole week, which is not something that they sold. I mean, that, effectively, if you wanted to go to every single round, you had to pay $200. That's probably a little too much. Mm-hmm. I think that we're seeing where pricing resistance is. Clearly, $100 for one day is too much for most people, because that was an option, right? If you wanted to go and show up for the single day, you could pay $100 to go. And even if you didn't use the other days on your ticket. But I think that's clearly just that price is not supported, and nor should it be. I mean, I think that's just too expensive for the current climate of disc golf, especially in Emporia, Kansas, you know? So I think I give some grace to say that we haven't even been charging for spectators at Worlds, but for the last 2 years. That's it, right? Like in the past, it was just free. So people are still kind of figuring it out, but this will certainly be a learning lesson for everyone involved.
Yep.
Last thing before we take a quick break, thoughts on the courses. Josh, what'd you think? I mean, it was obviously played totally different. It was like birdie or die out there compared to what we saw at the Dynamic Disc Open in the wind. So what did you think overall?
Yeah, I want to read an email from Isaac, and then I will frame that around my thoughts on these courses. Isaac says, a comment by Gossage on the Nick and Matt show ought to be talked about when you talk about the courses. Gossage said, these courses are a lot less fluky. There seems to be less luck the entire week. I never had a lucky break or an unlucky break. I would take that every tournament for the rest of my life. Apart from more defined lines and rough, this is back to Isaac now. He was quoting Gossage before. Apart from more defined lines and rough, which is probably universal, I don't think the general public has good legitimate reasons why they don't like these courses. Three things actually. Thing number one, Gossage is not the general public. Gossage is a player who is entitled to his opinions on why he likes these courses. But if I just took second place at Worlds in a playoff, I'd probably like these courses a lot too. People like Simon, though, talk about how much they hate artificial OB. Gannon in his Instagram said he can't wait to get out to courses where, like GMC, that even though Fox Run has some artificial OB, he feels like it's not the defining feature of the course, and that he's excited to get out to courses where, and his Instagram says, he can just let loose and throw again. Kristen Tatar, in our interview with her on Wednesday, said that she's excited for courses like in Pittsburgh that have more creativity. And so that all those things, I mean, Aaron Gossage may prefer golf that doesn't have luck, but I don't think that's a universal feeling among the pros about what their course preferences are. Otherwise, I don't think Maple Hill would be your favorite course, because hello, trees introduce luck. So first off, I don't think that's a general consensus among the pros. Second off, the general public, as Isaac says, doesn't care about just how lucky a course is. I bet if you polled viewers, less than 1% of them would say how lucky a course is their top priority when viewing disc golf. And maybe
I think it might be zero people.
It might be zero. Isaac, I'm being unnecessarily hard on you, and I'm sorry. I feel strongly about these courses, and I'm sticking to my guns. I care way more about the creativity and shot making that comes in. Bradley Williams' throw in at the Preserve, because he was slightly out of position in a short tunnel, is so much more exciting than any upshot except McBeth's on 17 and Gossage's on 18. That's it. I don't know of any other upshot that is as compelling as Bradley Williams throwing in through a nice tight tunnel of trees, and other just crazy scrambles through the woods. Think of Paul McBeth at the European Open, where he's on the wrong fairway that's on a dividing line of trees and throws the big Sky Annie that gets him over to the green. I think it might have been hole 13. He was playing from holes 12's fairway. I mean, those are the kind of recovery shots that are just so exciting and set up significantly more often on courses that have woods. So number one, I don't think this is a general consensus among the pros. Number two, I don't think that's what the general viewer is looking for. And number three, these courses are crazy lucky when it's 60 mile an hour raging headwinds. It just, the only reason it wasn't lucky is because there was the natural factor, the natural environmental factor, which at a lot of courses is trees.
By which these courses were designed around.
By which these courses were designed around literally changes the difficulty of the course based on what time of year you are because of how windy it is. That I think that's more randomness and luck. Like, tell me DDO didn't have randomness and luck. Like, I just disagree. I disagree on so many levels.
Fundamentally, where does mostly luck come into play in disc golf? There's a couple things. One is kind of like arbitrary OB, like if you have a stream across the middle of a fairway, which, by the way, they had that at Jones Supreme, and people hated it so much they took it out.
Yep.
And then it's trees, right? It's tree hits. It's tree kicks. Do you kick into the fairway, or you get blasted out into the netherworld and never to be seen again? That's where luck comes into play. Well, there's no trees out here. Of course, there's no luck. There's no trees. It's like you're throwing in a giant open field. Now, I'm exaggerating. In fact, I actually think that these courses do a very good job of taking advantage of the trees that they have. Yes. Some of the placements of the greens with a big guardian cedar tree were excellent. I mean, they create real challenge on those upshots. There's a lot of technicality on these courses that I think can go underappreciated if you're just like, whatever, they're just throwing in an open field.
Yeah.
And I think there's very reasonable criticisms of the courses from a beauty perspective, from a shot differentiation perspective.
Course differentiation.
And I also think that they have some great holes, and I think the courses are very well designed for the professional players.
Agreed. I
think that they stand up to the challenge of asking pros to do difficult things with the disc. And so, from Aaron Gossage's perspective, I think it makes sense that he feels good about the courses. Obviously, he played well on them, and I think they do. I basically agree with Gossage, right? These are fair courses. It's why if he'd won, I don't think it would have been fair to asterisk this or something like that.
Yeah.
And so, but, I've said it before, at the end of the day, you're trying to make a masterpiece painting on a canvas that's not very good. And when that's your goal, like, you can only do so much. I hope we don't have Worlds here again.
Yep.
Sorry.
Same.
Nothing against Emporia. I enjoyed my time in Emporia. I think Eric McCabe did a great job designing these courses. I think hole 16 is one of the best on the planet.
Yep.
There's a lot of things I like, but I want to see two different styles tested at Worlds. I think that should be a prerequisite. And I don't think we got that this week. I think we got a lot of the same kind of golf the whole time. That's my thoughts. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're talking to the 6-time world champion, Paul McBeth. Stay with us. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. Make sure you check out Pound's Custom Pack Builder, where you can customize every aspect of the bag, from the upper fabric, the lower fabric, the zippers, the sliders, the cords. You can get an Octothorpe, an Octahall, a toolbox, or even a Carlton in custom options. And stay tuned, Rufus Customs coming soon. Go to PoundDiscGolf.com to check out the Custom Pack Builder today. Joining us now on the Upshot is now 6-time world champion and 17-time major winner, Paul McBeth. Paul, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
Well, what a tournament! It's the largest ever comeback in MPO / World's history from somebody trailing in the final round, coming back by 3 strokes to beat Aaron Gossage in a playoff. How does this one feel? You've won a lot of major titles in your years, so how does this one feel?
It feels great. As far as the 3 strokes, I feel like it's kind of an unfair statistic right now, because so many worlds were final 9 base, so that was kind of the deficits people were facing. Had to make it up in 3 hole or 9 holes. So. But this one feels good, after the story of last year, kind of this year that I'm having, to where I'm just not closing out tournaments. And then to have to win in a playoff against Aaron, who's just, did did not make a mistake. He just never gave any strokes up. It was hard. It was hard to catch him because you had to make the great shots. He wasn't going to throw any bad. He did miss some putts, but that's going to happen.
When he missed the putt on hole 1, what went through your mind there? Was it like game on?
Well, yeah, and it was a little breezier than most days. So his putting style, his nose down, putting into the headwind's definitely his most challenging putt. So even though he was only like 15 feet, that disc is going to move a lot. He's got to fight the wind. And with that nose down style, you got to put it so high above the basket. And it's not what you want to do into a headwind, because if you do hit that angle right, that thing's just going to float right over the basket. So, I think that was his miss, was low. So, but yeah, like you said, it was definitely game on because that 3 strokes went to too quick. So
you spoke of Aaron not making any mistakes. You had one mistake that I think was just glaring if we're talking about the round itself, which I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, OB on 15. What went through your mind when you hit that tree on 15?
Well, my mistake was I just gave the wind too much credit. I thought it was going to flip my disc up, and it just held the hyzer there and pulled it right into that tree and rolled OB. So after I hit that, I knew I was bogeying the hole. There was no chance for par. So he was going to be tied or up 1 in that situation. And I knew I had 16, 17, 18. I knew nobody's going to birdie all 3. No one's just going to go birdie, birdie, birdie to finish, especially in the situation we were in. So I knew there was opportunity to make at least tie it up. And I was able to do that on 16 because once we both made the island, he had that headwind putt again, which has given him a real challenge throughout the day.
Was there ever any doubt in your mind about trying to run the putt on 16? There was some discussion on DGN about whether to lay up or not. Obviously, once he missed, maybe the calculus even changes some. But were you going to run that no matter what?
Yeah, I was running it no matter what. My putts were feeling good. As poor as I was putting throughout the week, my inside the circle stats were up there with everyone. I think I only missed 2 or 3 in the circle all week. So, yeah, I was in the circle, so I was running it 100%.
Well, I want to ask you a little bit about, the thing that was causing you to struggle with the putting. I would imagine was you had a calf injury. You're also dealing with a left shoulder injury. Tell us about physically how you were doing, and did it change throughout the course of the week?
So the left shoulder thing, I don't know. It's not an injury. It wasn't working properly. I couldn't get my timing right. And it was just giving me issues with my tee shots and throwing turnovers, just kind of getting in the way. So I was just Monday before the tournament started, I'm like, I need to get this figured out. What is going on? And I thought, well, what if I just pull it out of the way completely? Because I just wasn't getting it back in my shot and then bringing it back forward for the timing. So I just was like, all right, let's pull it back, keep it back, and then let everything else go. And let's see if that works. And the timing was working great. I was throwing the disc well. Angles were good. Power was good. So that was Monday before the tournament started. And I was like, I'm going to roll with it. And it worked out. And then the calf was second round, hole 17, my upshot just cramped up and just kind of never left. I don't know what it was, but it just didn't leave. And it really did affect the putting side because the push off, was a key to my putting. And then come final day, I was able to switch back because I was like, this is the final round. I don't care how much it hurts. You need to just push through it. But the other days I was kind of just trying to conserve, and just stay close. And I was able to do that with, keeping the score tight. And then final round, I was like, let's just give it everything. And, it did affect a lot of the shots. So I was going a little bit more forehand, more often, because that was a shot that was definitely easier to throw. But yeah, I was able to play through it, and that's all that matters to me.
When you were on hole 17 and you hit the tree and dropped down pretty early, what was going through your head for the rest of that hole?
So yeah, I got the wind lift on that one. That headwind, and got Matty O's drive as well. So when Aaron threw his shot, I was like, he nailed it. He kept the nose down, threw a little turnover angle. And I knew I could go across like that route that I threw, because I've thrown it at, I think, DDO and GBO and things like that. I've thrown that shot in the past. I was never that far away, but I knew if I crossed right there, I was going to guarantee myself a par and put a little bit of pressure on Aaron. But I was able to actually crest that hill, get myself, the 70-footer. I didn't know how close it was from where I was. I just knew it cleared and got a little bit of distance, so I was going to be, able to at least give it a run of some sort. But I think had I laid up, Aaron would have converted his shot no problem. Just pitched it over and taken the stroke advantage into 18. So that shot was huge for me, and I went through every option too. Like I thought, well, maybe I'll lay up to the left. Maybe I'll try to flex one on the left side and try to clear going that way. But I felt this was the one that gave me the best opportunity to at least put some pressure on Aaron.
Yeah. And that's a tight window. I mean, Brian Earhart was talking on the broadcast about, you got to hit this tight gap. You got to throw it really hard. There's obviously OB danger both right and left. How committed did you have to be to that shot? It seemed like such a high pressure moment, because if you do go out of bounds, that's like the tournament, right? So
yeah.
How did you decide? What were you telling yourself to make sure that you hit that line the way you wanted to?
Well, like you said, I knew it was the tournament, was on this shot, because if I win OB, it's over. Because I'd still have to be on the short side. I knew if I threw it low, it would have gone OB, similar to how Calvin's just did. So I really had to push the ceiling, and I might have even hit a leaf coming out the gap, but also the footing was very poor. I think I went up, checked it 4 times before even doing my actual run up. And I was just telling myself, if you slip, that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen here. But I had to throw the shot anyways. And I had to give it a little anhyzer to get out the gap, and then hope, it kind of lifts when it starts to hyzer, which it did. But yeah, I pushed every piece of height I had on that, and all the power I had to, even with that footing, to just rip it. So it did work out, and yeah, it was an all or nothing shot for
It's
sure.
an incredible shot. Do you look back on that shot as bigger, or the putt itself on 17?
I think they go hand in hand. I think they're both just as big, because I don't think I have one without the other for sure on that hole. So the draw or the upshot definitely put the pressure on Aaron to still get it close. But then again, I still don't know if he knew how close I was, but he knew I was going to at least par. Neither of us knew how close I was until we got up there. So I think going across was big for sure.
How confident were you that you were going to make that putt when you stepped up to it?
On 17? I was extremely confident. I just knew just get it high enough and it's going to have a chance, because in practice and warm-ups, my putts from distance like that, if I had the height on them, they were going in. The miss I had was always short, but they always seemed to be on line. So going back to the previous rounds, I was like, just get the height on it. You're going to have the power. That's all. And as soon as I let it go, I knew it was high enough. Now it just was battling the headwind, whether it was going to hyzer back in or not. And I was able to catch the right side and stick it in there. So it was one that there was minimal doubt on for sure.
So we have 18. Aaron shoots the incredible upshot on 18 to stick the green. Your putt comes up a little bit short and you go to the playoff. When you're in the playoff, I know now the answer is a little obvious, but at that moment, coin toss happens. Aaron goes first. Are you pleased by that, or did you want to go first?
Well, it didn't matter to me on that hole because I knew what I had to do shot wise, whether he was going in or not. Like I had to put it on the island, so it didn't matter whether I was going first or not. But what I wanted to do was make sure I pushed the back wall and just got it inbounds because I knew Aaron. I watched Aaron play that hole twice. The first round he laid up, so that was kind of telling for what he felt on that island because that was fourth round too. So and that was I think a little bit. I don't think it was as windy. It may have been similar, but he laid up, and then in the final round, just a few holes before that, he ran it, but not too confidently. He went off the cage. So I knew in this playoff he wasn't going to be feeling better. He wasn't going to be like locked in on now I'm really going to make this putt. So I knew I just had to put on the island to give myself a really good chance. So first or second didn't matter to me.
Was it nervy at all for you, especially given that last year you were in some similar spot? You're going to a playoff and you're playing an island hole and you miss it last year.
No, not this one. This island I felt really comfortable with. I played it, so many times. And I knew what to do. I missed it the second round. First round I played, I threw the buzz that I threw, put it on the island, made the birdie. Next round it was a little bit windier. It was a headwind actually, that's why. So I went with the vulture. I landed on the island, but I was OB. And then I threw the buzz, put on the island, made the birdie, and then I threw the buzz again. Would have had the putt for birdie, but just had to lay up. So I felt pretty dialed with that shot. And then with the back wall, it's kind of, I can just throw it as hard as I want. As long as it's not above 6 feet, it's going to hit that wall.
What are your thoughts on Emporia and including Jones Supreme as a venue for Worlds? Do you feel like these are, what did you think? I won't put any words in your mouth. I'll just let you answer.
Well, so I had this question last night. I don't have anything to say about the courses because they were the only ones that bid for Worlds. So they were the best courses we had on the table. Then it was the best venue that we had on the table. When it's the only bid, we can't complain. We need to be better as pros that events want to have us, So just like Vermont, from what I heard, they're the only ones that bid, but as far as spectators and viewers, they like watching Vermont over DD, the DDO. So, I think they're quite similar in courses, but they're still challenging, not as challenging without the win, but they're still challenging for sure.
I want to go back to something that you said in your post-round interviews on Saturday, that you chose to throw some of Aaron's lines. I'm curious to know if that was a straight up, I'm trying to get in your head decision, or if you genuinely thought, wow, that's a better way to play this hole than the way that I am playing it.
A little bit of both. For example, hole 5, I believe it is. Yeah, 5. He goes forehand off the tee. And I usually throw backhand, but I was feeling my forehand all week. And it's also trusting my gut instincts there as well. And being like, all right, I feel confident in the forehand. I should throw it here because he threw it so easily, got his birdie, I believe, round 4. And, so I was like, yeah, I can do that too. So I took out my force, and it's kind of like people are like, oh, that doesn't do anything. Like that's not affecting anyone. Why would that change Aaron shots? It's like you hear the term big putted all the time. Someone hits a 35 footer and then you got a 20 footer and you missed yours. They made theirs. Like you see it. So it kind of throws you off, or you're like, oh, that's easier. So there were certain shots where actually every time I think I did that, he did make a mistake in a way. Like hole 5, hole 10, I threw a zone, which I had never practiced, never even thought about trying, but he did it the day before. And I was like, I can do that. I'm gonna get my zone out. And I threw it. And, you make little adjustments when you see someone else throw the same disc or same shot, because, you don't want to, you either want to copy them or you feel like you might have a little bit more power, things like that. So you might tweak a little bit things. And then I think there was one other shot. Oh, just the one around the bush, because I knew it's like 12 or something like that, the new par 3. I knew he threw the forehand around. So I was like, I'm not going to lose a stroke here. I'm going to throw the same shot and we're going to push this hole. I'm going to keep the 1-stroke lead versus trying to go over it or throw the turnover. So that was kind of I just washed that hole by throwing the same shot as him.
What did you think of his game plan this week, the way he played?
It was, solid. He went 10 down, 10 down, 10 down, 9 down, and then what was the last one? 6 or something? 7. So it was pretty predictable on what he was going to do. He wasn't going to get much better because he was putting well. He was throwing the disc where he wanted. He wasn't taking unnecessary risks. So it was I kind of knew, 10 was probably going to be his best round. So if I really needed to push, I'd have to shoot a 13 to tie him. But yeah, it was just no mistakes. He had 2 bogeys the whole time until the playoff, and there were island holes, hole 1, and then that was it. Like he wasn't going to give it to someone. Once he was in the position where he was leading, he wasn't going to give the world title away. He was going to make someone earn it.
I'm curious, and I'm not exactly sure how to ask this question well, but so often we talk to players about, when you went into this tournament, were you thinking about this person? When you were in that round, were you thinking about that person chasing you? Were you thinking, and the answer that we almost always get, 99% of the time, you might be the lone exception to that actually, is I just go and focus on my game plan. How do you both, you talk about throwing a zone shot that you never practiced. I guess my question in terms, how do you take your opponent's game plan, your opponent, where your opponent is, and convert that over into the excellent game then that you play? Do you ever feel like it backfires? Do you feel like you try that sometimes and things go wrong? Describe that a little bit, because I think it's pretty unique for you.
Yeah, there's definitely times where someone might throw a really good shot, like a hyzer over the trees, and you're like, oh, I can do that, and you screw it up because you went off your game plan. But I thought about it the night before after playing with Aaron round 4. I was like, why? I think I could do that and do it pretty easily, go into the forehand on 5 and 10 and that other shot. It just seemed like the safer route. So that switching that wasn't like that moment type change, So I thought over it and figured it out to where, yeah, that'll work out well for me. It's usually when people just make a snap decision where they're like, yeah, he threw that hyzer really good. I'm going to do that. So they were thought out before doing it. But yeah, it could definitely get you in trouble. And he had a great game plan on those holes. He clearly, those were some of his strengths. Like I would never throw a forehand onto the island on 16, but that's his move. So I know where to stop. I know where to say no and not make those decisions. So yeah, he had a game plan that fit him, and he was that close to winning the Worlds this year.
What do you think? It didn't feel like, and statistically too, you look at the event rating that you had over the course of the week. It's not the highest. I think it's actually the lowest that you've had winning a Worlds. Mm-hmm. You clearly struggled at times with elements of your game, maybe largely due to the calf injury and the putting. What did it take to win this one? Because this is not the prototypical Paul McBeth victory where you're leading most of the way and then you close it out. It's what we expected to see a year ago, and then obviously James hits the shot. So this one was grindy. This one was gritty. What did it take to ultimately get this 6th win?
I think it was a lot of what you just said. Well, as far as the ratings too, I think since PDJ took over the ratings, they've been kind of questionable.
Opening a Pandora's box here.
Yeah, okay. So they've been a little questionable. But it was definitely that. I definitely used the word patience throughout the week, and it was just like I needed to just wait. It's 5 rounds. These courses are unpredictable. The weather's unpredictable out here, even though the forecast said it was going to be calm and warm. it's you never know. So I just knew I had to be patient, no matter how far I fell back, no matter if I got ahead and started, taking the lead. It's just you gotta stay in the moment and not think too far ahead and just kind of keep going with what's in front of you. And then and then with my my calf and my body just not acting the way that it should, I was like, you do have a little bit, you got a few limits, so let's hold it back and just kind of really push on the final day. Just stay close, and then like final round, you do what you have to do. So it was a waiting game for sure on that too. I knew I couldn't just rip the shots as far as everyone else was. I just had to settle with what I had and go from there.
6 world titles is an incredible accomplishment, especially given how competitive the field is, and puts you on a level unlike any other competitor that's actively playing this game. What is it that makes you different, in your opinion?
Oh man, I have no clue. It's definitely I think a lot is the preparation and the mindset of doing it. I love disc golf just as much as the other players, but I think I embrace it in my life completely, rather than just kind of going out and playing and wanting to be competitive and only focusing on disc golf when it's there present. So I think that definitely helps. But also I think, I love those moments. I love, having the putt for the world title on 18, whether I make it or miss it. I love being in that situation to where a lot of people would probably I'd rather have a 5-stroke lead going into the last hole,
When it left your hand on 18, did you think you had it?
No, I knew where I had to put it, but I had to trust the wind to lift it. I wasn't going to put it and let it go over the top, similar to, like Aaron's putt on 16. I didn't want to put it above that basket because I knew what was behind it. So I was trying to just hoping the wind would lift a little bit. It wasn't, it was a touch left, but close enough to where it was going to catch some pole and stick if it was high enough. But if that was a normal size basket, that one was going in all day. So that would have been a fun one to make for sure.
Oh man, I thought it was going to go in. They said on the broadcast you were going to lay it up.
No, I mean, who's going to lay up a chance to win a world title?
That's what we said.
I'd rather lose it than give the opportunity to someone else to, make an island hole or something, or whatever hole. I didn't know what hole we were going to either for the playoff before the putt. So.
Oh, really?
No, I wasn't thinking about it. I thought I was going to win it right there.
I love that. Trying to call your shot. You call your shot. The new disc, 6 letters, 6 world championships. Didn't take you long. It's a pretty baller move to come out with the Athena and then win straight away. How's that gone? I know you sell a zillion discs no matter what, but I saw long lines for you out there at the Fly Mart on Friday.
Yeah, it went well. I obviously went right after my round, but that was still like 15 or 20 minutes after they had already sold. And I feel bad sometimes because the line it's so long, so it's really cool to see. But it'll wrap around, like there was a Prodigy van there selling, and my line went and wrapped around the Prodigy van and came back. And I was like, oh, Prodigy's, they must be dropping something. And no, it was the Discraft line. So it was, sometimes I feel kind of bad like that, but no, I mean, that means we're doing things right. So it's awesome to be a part of and see and have the support, that Discraft gives me and all the other players. It's, they believe in us, so it makes it so much easier for us to want to do everything we can for Discraft and yeah, I don't know. It's super cool. And I'm just so thankful for it.
I want to ask you about another thing you said in your post-round interview. Terry Miller asked you about Ken Climo and the comparisons, and obviously you take a step closer to his majors record of 18. When you said that you want to see him be more present, what did you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I didn't speak a whole lot on it in the interview, but it's just like, a lot of these other sports. I'm going to use basketball for example. It's probably one of the easiest ones. Like Bill Russell's been retired for, well, he's passed away now, but like he was retired for a long time. But he always showed up to the playoff games, the finals, the awards. He would do interviews. He would do such. He'd talk about the sport and maybe a little bit about his time, but he'd be there. He'd be present. People like that some consider the greatest of all time in their sport. That have these incredible accomplishments. Baseball very similar, NFL very similar, and golf as well. Like you'd see Jack Nicklaus and Arnold Palmer. They'd be playing the first at the Masters or the par 3 at the Masters, not competing with the players obviously, but they're there present, and they're being a part of the sport. And I think that's what's made their legacies so incredible. And my issue with Kenny is like it seems like he wants that because how active he is on Facebook only around Worlds time or USDGC time. He'll get in these little arguments online and talk about himself, and it's like, just be there, and then other people will talk for you. They'll talk about your legacy and what you've done in the sport. So, like if he just wants to fade away and just kind of live his life and leave disc golf behind, that's fine. Don't go on Facebook and try to defend yourself and tell other people how great you are. So,
how great do you think he was?
He was. So I've only seen him win one tournament, I think, in my life. Obviously, it was really good for all just backhand and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think it's like watching Conrad, like it's very similar. Style-wise, they're very unique forms. Putting, I think James is probably a much better putter. But obviously he's really good, but I never got to see his full skill set on what Kenny could do. But he obviously won. He won. He was a winner. So yeah, he was before my time too. So I never got to really see him play, or at least compete at the highest level. I think I've seen him throw like a forehand 3 times in a field. But yeah, he's obviously won 12 worlds, so he was a lot better than everyone else at the time.
You've said, I think it was on our last interview with you this year, that you think you could get to 12. You're at 6 now. Does that still hold true? Do you still think you can get to 12?
I mean, you guys are telling me I didn't play good at Worlds and I still won, so
that's a good point. That's a good point. Then here's my follow-up question for you. If you had to pick one player right now who you think could get in the way of that and could take some of those titles away from you, which player do you pick?
I don't know if there's a standout. I mean, there's so many good players, obviously. I think I was comparing this earlier, like to the year. Like I feel like I've had a chance to win almost every tournament this year except one, and that was Idlewild with what Isaac Robinson did. So if Isaac Robinson showed up to a Worlds and played like he did at Idlewild, I think it'd be hard to beat him. And he's younger for sure too. So obviously Gainenberg is really talented. Barella, there's a lot of these younger players, but I don't know if I would pinpoint one except for that Isaac Robinson event. That would be tough to beat week in and week out, or year after year, I should say.
So you hadn't won a tournament since April before winning Worlds. Mm-hmm. That's got to be a bit of an unusual feeling for you, especially considering that you played so amazing at the European Open. Does it add a little extra oomph to the win? Obviously it's World, so it's going to be great no matter what, but it's pretty, I would probably be hard pressed to find the last time you went that many months without winning a tournament.
Yeah. I mean, I think I've done a couple of interviews, and it's like the ones that I was looking forward to were European Open. And how many tournaments have we played since European Open? Just 3, 4, maybe. And then Worlds. not a whole lot.
Right.
So that was like kind of the point in my year that I was like, all right, this is where I want to peak. This is where I want to start playing really well. Because the off season didn't go how I wanted. I didn't get near the training or skill side practice that I wanted. So I had to kind of use the year as that. So I wanted to make sure my game was where I wanted it, European Open, Worlds time. So this is kind of this is the point where I really wanted to be playing at my best. So I wasn't really worried about what was happening at those other tournaments. If I won them, great. But my focus was really on European Open and Worlds. So to take second in the tournament I was focused on and take first in the other one, like that was my goal. So being able to accomplish that, and then having some good placings before that, in between is solid. But obviously, I show up to the tournaments and I want to win. But these had a little bit more focus into them.
So this question is much less consequential, but we've got to ask it. There's been a lot of talk about the trophy. What are your thoughts on said trophy?
Well, they gave us 2 trophies.
Okay.
So I had a feeling. So it's right here. So this is the bottom of it, and this is the top. So it's kind of just a glass globe.
Okay.
Which kind of goes along with their DDO.
Yeah, the glass blown open history. Yeah.
But I do like the glass blown open ones more. The other one's on the ground back there. It's just a
Which
huge
one's
thing
going?
of steel.
It's heavy, right?
It's like 30 pounds. Yeah.
Do you like it?
Yeah. I mean, I think it could be used. It'd be cool for something, but it's not going to be on a trophy case.
Yeah, I guess it's a little heavy to put in the trophy case. I'm curious to know, what's the best trophy you've ever gotten from winning a disc golf tournament?
European Masters was super cool. It was like this handmade glass, big trophy. And it was like each one, they put a little tint of a color. So like they had like a pink one, a blue one, and a purple one. That one was super cool. And then Ledgestone usually does a good job with their trophies. They do crystal and all that stuff. But obviously the USDGC rings are cool. But I don't know if that's considered the trophy. But I have quite a few displayed here. I can't think of which tournaments. But I usually only keep the trophies that I like.
Would you display the preserve bear if you won that?
Well, I don't think the person actually gets that. Oh, they get a little.
Oh, do they?
Year. They might get a little.
They get a little
version,
one.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, and that we had talked about that, but man, that would be what a trophy. That one's cool.
I'm a fan of more of the glass and the crystal looking stuff more than the wood and steel. But
that's fair.
Like my mom. So actually, it's funny. So my mom has a garden back in Huntington Beach, or she loves plants. So anytime I get a wood trophy, she puts them in her. She'll incorporate them into her garden and stuff.
That's cool.
So, so she uses them somehow.
So you've got so many trophies that you've got a trophy case at your house, and then your mom's garden's also a trophy case.
Yeah.
Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah. Nice problem to have.
Yeah.
At some point, there'll be a Paul McBeth trophy garden in Huntington Beach for people to walk through.
There you go.
So how'd you celebrate number 6?
Well, it was funny because we were staying with the Estonians as well, and then Lauri Lettinen. So we had Kristen there. So we all went out to dinner at some restaurant we didn't even know existed, some steakhouse we didn't even know existed in Emporia. So we went to, I think, Union Street or something like that, and we just all had dinner. And then it was an exhausting day. So as soon as you finish the round, you don't get to do anything you want for at least an hour to 2. With autographs, interviews, pictures, all sorts of stuff. So it was about 8:00 by the time we were getting food. So we ate and then we all went back, and I think maybe all went to bed. We had to pack up and leave the next day. They're in Pittsburgh, so they're already playing another event.
I could not believe it when Kristen told us she was playing Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but from what I heard is with her injury, if she takes a day off, it tightens up real quick. So.
Where does
She's not taking more days off.
Where does 17 stand for you in like all-time key holes played to win a big tournament, win a major or worlds, whatever?
What do you mean, like? The hole itself.
Yeah, where do you rank it in your mind? Like not how you played it, right? Not the hole itself as an actual like sort of competitive golf hole, but like, you know, that's obviously going to go down in history as this incredible moment. And you've had some big hole 17s just in general, but where does this one stand in that pantheon?
This one was a do or die hole for sure. You know, after the tee shot. The hole itself isn't like, wow, this is a great hole. It does have a unique challenge with the low ceiling off the tee, and then the second shot you have to go over. You know, so it's almost the opposite of what you just had to do on the tee shot. So yeah, the shots that I had to throw are definitely up there in my career because it was a all or nothing. Like I have to go for this. I convert the shot and I have a chance, or I hit the tree and it's over and we're, you know, Aaron's walking in the wind. So it was definitely one of the most crucial and toughest shots I've thrown out of Worlds with that pressure, because any other moment I'm not going across like that.
So I'll ask the question that you thought Charlie was asking. 17 majors. Where does this one rank in the 17 majors in its importance to you?
In the 17, I mean, it's big. It's my sixth world title. So, it's a really big one. Yeah, I think I was asked like where it sits as far as my worlds too, and it's probably the most important one. The biggest moment, biggest shot, 17, 18, then the playoff. I felt bad, but I felt bad for Aaron missing the island, but I knew he still had the drop zone. Like it wasn't over because it's very makeable. But yeah, this one was huge for the worlds. And as far as 17, I only got one more to go to tie the major record. So, pretty cool.
Yeah. Go ahead, Josh.
Oh, no, sorry, Charlie. Any insight as to what the sixth claw is going to look like?
We are debating on if we're going to go claws or not. So we're trying to figure it out. We know a lot of people want the claws though.
Our prediction was the 3x3.
3x3.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's a way to make it look good, but
I believe
I've seen a lot of concepts. I've seen a lot of concepts. But
I'm not going to contribute one. I'm not an artist.
There is one that I like, but we'll see if we go with it.
Okay.
But as far as claws, people are like, oh, when are they going to come out? Claws usually don't come out till the next year.
Okay.
Unfortunately, because it's when we did the 4 claw, it was a production run. Retailers get them and all that. So you got to let the retailers get their time, get their orders. So we did the 4 claw that way, 5 claw that way. So if we do 6 claws, or whatever the 6th time is, it'll be that way. So it'll probably be a little bit later in the year, but we will do a commemorative disc a lot sooner. So that will not have claws as far as I know.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time that you had to come back from behind to win a Worlds was 2014 Portland when you had the big playoff with Ricky. That's classic Worlds. I mean, still talked about to this day. That playoff was a little bit more substantial than the one we just saw with you and Aaron Gossage. But, do you look back on that as like your best comeback, or do you feel like this one could be that?
That one was definitely my best comeback because I think 7. I took a 7 on like hole 8 or something, somewhere around there. Hole 7, I think it might have been 8 or 9. So I took a 7 on that hole in the semifinals. So then I had, that 9 holes to make it up, or the remaining 9 holes, and then the next 18 holes. So I think I was 7 back or something. So I had to birdie like 22 of the final 24 holes to catch them. So something that'd be cool if UDisc was around then, but like that'd be a cool thing to look at with kind of numbers. But I think I had to birdie like 21 or 22 of the final 24 holes to get to the playoff.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah,
it's a cool comeback.
Well, Paul, kind of summary thoughts for your season so far. You've had so many great, amazing rounds. It hasn't always translated to the wins, and then you win the biggest tournament of the year, and you're squarely back in the Player of the Year conversation and all that. So how does that just how is 2022 with the World's win now? Where does it sit for you?
Yeah, I guess it hasn't lived up to a Paul McBeth type year. I have a great year. I got a major, I got an Elite Series, got some A tiers, a lot of podiums and stuff like that. So it's a solid year. But when it's compared to how I normally play, it's not good. But as far as I know, I'm leading DGPT points. I'm leading Player of the Year race and all that stuff. So it's still a solid year, but I have 4 more tournaments I want to go out and win, that I have some focus on that I want to go out and win. So maybe ask me this question in a month and a half.
Sounds fair. We'll have you back on. Paul, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Paul McBeth, 6-time world champion. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Upshot. Thank you so much to Paul for stopping by, and always interesting to hear him talk about his approach to the game. I think, Josh, you said it well when you asked him about how he's almost like trying to attack the other player's game plan. And we truly do not hear that from other players. No one ever says, like, I don't believe them. I don't believe that's true. I think players definitely think about what the other players are doing and how to try to maybe get an edge. But for McBeth to be like, yes, I'm like intentionally trying to throw the lines that he was throwing because I want to make him think about it. That's next level stuff.
Well, the way we always talk about competition in disc golf is that it's actually a fault, right? It's a problem if you're thinking about the other player. It means that you aren't focused on your own game plan. You're not focused on the right things. You're getting distracted. And so we talk about it as if it's a knock. But in reality, the reason we do that is because I think, like McBeth said, if you let that change your game plan in the moment or pull away from what you need to be doing, then absolutely that can be a detriment.
Sure.
But it requires an elite player to be able to focus on both your own game as well as your opponent's game and do those simultaneously in order to create a cohesive game plan. But even McBeth talking about the fact, like, I knew Aaron had not scored better than 10. He'd scored 10, 10, 9, 10, 10, 10, 9 all weekend. I knew he wasn't going to score better than that. I knew I needed a 13. That if the wind was up, I knew his putting was going to be low. It meant he wasn't going to score a 10. Nobody talks like that in disc golf. That's an elite level mentality. And that's kind of why I asked the question, like, what does he think makes him different? I think it's that mentality. And he said that, the preparation. And I think that goes into part of it. But if other players think about and strategize around other players' games, it's not to the level McBeth does. And it's why going head to head with McBeth is the most difficult thing in the world in professional disc golf, because you are truly playing a chess match.
Well, I also think McBeth gets better under pressure. And I think that's one of the things that separates the greatest players ever. I mean, when have you really seen McBeth like have a choke type moment? I think you could argue that we saw it last year when he missed the islands in the playoff. Because it's weird because he'd made that shot all week. But I almost give him a pass because of how crazy that was. Like, in his mind, it's over. And other than that, though, like when the pressure is at its absolute maximum and when he's made a mistake, he somehow manages to recover. I mean, we talked about it on Tuesday, but just the shot making on 17 was incredible.
Yeah.
This is an opportunity for me to take a couple of mulligans. Didn't have my finest showing on Tuesday. McBeth threw backhand, of course, because he's throwing to a pin that's to the left on 17 through that gap. I mean, it makes it more impressive, right, than when I said it was a forehand, because you don't get to look at the gap. And you have to reach back and yam a 450-foot drive that could go OB either side. And you heard McBeth talk about how he knew that couldn't get it too high, couldn't get it too low, couldn't hit the gap. Thinks he hit a leaf on the way out of the gap. Crazy, man. So that is one. I also shortchanged McBeth on his crazy round over at WR Jackson. I said it was a 14 under. Come on, man. It was a 16 under. A 16 under on WR Jackson. I shouldn't say it'll never be done again, because it's the same as like when I said McBeth wouldn't birdie on 17. And one more. Oh, I said Ken Climo's world championship was in 2005. It was, in fact, in 2006. So Mulligans for me. 0 for 3, strikeout.
Charlie, you just got too used to having the Stat Mando guys in our Discord during the live shows where we just said, I'm not 100% sure on that. Evan, can you give me an answer over here? And within 30 seconds, you had your answer in front of you. So that's the difference. We're just acclimating to the fact that, we have to do our own research again.
I mean, I was sort of close on stuff, but, close is only counts in horseshoes and hand grenades and not in disc golf,
right.
Unfortunately.
No.
Okay, so let's move on. I want to talk about this weekend's upcoming Silver Series. I know everyone cannot wait to tune in to watch this Silver Series. I mean, this is big stuff this weekend. It's the Butler County Disc Golf Classic, formerly the Pittsburgh Flying Disc Open. But they got that sponsor. So shout out to them. It will be played at North Boundary Park. It's a relatively new, very challenging, high elevation physical course outside of Pittsburgh. And it should be a real change up from Worlds, where it was flat as a pancake and not many trees. We're going into the mountains and into the woods. And Kristen Tatar told us in our interview series on Wednesday that it's going to require a lot more creativity, because you're going to throw the disc off the tee and you don't know where it's going to end up. There's not big, easy landing zones to hit like we saw at Worlds.
Yep. Over in MPO, I mean, this is not a well-attended Silver Series event, as can be kind of expected, being sandwiched in between the World Championships and then a Disc Golf Pro Tour Championship or playoff event. Over in MPO, your top-rated player, Matty O, 1043. You then have 4 players inside 1030. That's Kevin Jones at 1034, Joel Freeman at 1033, and then Andrew Marweed and Nicholas Antila both at 1030. That rounds out your top 5 highest-rated MPO players. Over in FPO, you have Kristen Tatar at 978, and then Emily Beach is the next highest at 949, almost 30 full points behind. And, when you look at, there's a handful of 940 rated players, including Maria Oliva, Jessica Weiss, Lisa Fakis, Rebecca Cox, and Madison Walker. But, it's a little top heavy on the FPO side in terms of Kristen standing out among the rest.
Well, certainly, interesting to see that she's playing it at all. Worth noting, this is the last chance for players to pick up points before the playoffs. Now, for this first event, where the top 50 FPO and the top 100 MPO get an auto berth, there's not a whole lot of drama, folks. The drama is going to come at the 2 playoff events for who's going to try to make the cutoff to get into the Pro Tour Championship. I'm just going to say thank you right away, Stat Mando and Evan from Stat Mando, pulling a bunch of data to kind of take a look at what actually is on the line this weekend. Now, notably, there are some players who could truly benefit from getting points this weekend that are not playing. When you look up towards the top end players like Valerie Mondahano, Owen Scoggins, Missy Gannon, who are trying to get that bye, they could actually pick up some points this weekend. Like Missy Gannon has a chance to get a full 25 points because she wouldn't be dropping another Silver Series that she's scored a bunch of points in. So she could go pick up, a good chunk of points, but that's not going to be happening because she's not going to be playing. So the things to know for this weekend: Jordan Castro and Scott Stokely have a chance to move into the top 100 with a strong showing this weekend. And now, worth noting, what happens if people decline spots? I think what's going to happen is they're just going to offer to the next person. So where truly is the line? There's 0% chance everyone in the top 100/50 is going to be playing at GMC.
Yeah. So
it's a little murky, let's be honest. You know, if you're at 105th, you got a pretty good chance of just getting in straight up. Let's see. I mean, that's basically it. Like, for people who are not inside the cutoff that have a chance to, that are competing, that's the list.
Mm-hmm. The only other thing that is kind of interesting, Kristen Tatar has a chance to move into the number 2 spot, passing Katrina Allen. She's 10 points behind Katrina Allen. So she could pass Katrina Allen with a win this weekend. That would put Paige first, Kristen second, Katrina third. But again, that doesn't really matter because it's a bye to semifinals either way in the top 4. So in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge deal. The bigger deal, like you talked about, and none of these 3 players are playing. Valerie Mondahano, Owen Scoggins, and Missy Gannon all are within about 30 points of each other, and one of those 3 will get the 4th bye, assuming Paige, Katrina, and Kristen don't drop out, which would require 2 of those players winning
disaster,
GMC and MVP, and Paige not playing for a couple events, right?
Right.
Just completely outrageous circumstances in order for that to happen. So, you know, that 4th spot is a competitive race to watch. Not going to be something to watch this weekend, but will be interesting to see next weekend at GMC. So something to keep an eye on. Also this week, though, you have the Canadian National Championships. There are a couple players on tour, both Americans and Canadians, who have gone over. That includes Jake Hebenheimer. You've got as well Thomas Gilbert, who is a Canadian. And then, you know, Matt Bell's going over on the FPO side. You got Ella Hansen going over to go play. So that'll be fun to keep an eye on. Zoe Andykes going over as well.
Hearing lots of good things about the potential future for Prince Edward Island and the courses over there. I think I'm hearing they're going to put in a bid for Worlds. I hope we make that happen. You know, we talk a lot about wanting to have international worlds, and when we say that, we usually mean Europe. But I think that another return to Canada would make a lot of sense. And I've just heard nothing but great things about the course on PEI. So something to keep an eye on. And it seems like a perfect off-week activity to go check out that tournament. So if you want to follow along with the Silver Series this weekend, post-production will be on the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube channel. And there will be final round live coverage on DGN, exclusive to DGN. I'll be calling the action with Christine Jennings and with Brian Earhart. Brian's actually going to be in New York City, so we'll be sitting in my apartment together, the DGN studios in New York City, and calling the action during MPO. So looking forward to the tournament. North Boundary, curious to see how it plays for the top pros. It's got a reputation for having a lot of teeth amongst the locals, so should be a lot of fun. And you know, Pittsburgh Worlds again. We could do it, right? You know, we're talking about going back to Portland, go back to Pittsburgh. Like, there's some great places to have some Worlds.
One side note.
Yep.
Since our Simon interview, when I said, if you could change one thing about the tour, what would it be? And he said, I would put it next to metropolitan areas with large airports that you can fly into. I have not stopped thinking about that all year. And so anytime we talk about like future events, future venues, I always think of like, where could we be hosting prestigious events next to airports? Pittsburgh fits that bill. Not too crazy an airport, not too big of a metro, because that's the problem, right? You can't do New York City. We've already tried San Francisco and failed, basically. Right. So you got to think about one step down. And Pittsburgh is a great town. Love Pittsburgh. Urban disc golf? Could you do like an urban one in Las Vegas?
We're talking
down the strip.
F1 style.
That's right.
We were going to do a this or that segment, but this show is already just enormous. So we're going to leave it there.
Almost 2 hours.
This or that coming up next week. And we're also going to take some of your mail as well about Worlds. So until then, he's Josh Mansfield. I'm Charlie Eisenhood. Talk to you next time right here on The Upshot. Wait. We didn't make our picks.
Oh.
This is going to be we're going to leave it like this. Editors, don't change anything. We're just going to
bloopers.
People are going to be like, they didn't make their picks. They have to listen for this extra hidden segment at the end of the episode. Picks. I'm taking Kristen Tatar. I know I'm going out on a limb. I know I'm getting a little spicy, but I'm taking Tatar to back up her world championship with, an even bigger title at the Butler County Disc Golf Classic.
Charlie, when I said I was taking Kristen, you said, she might be phoning it in this weekend. And I said, Kristen could phone it in with one arm tied behind her back and blindfolded, and she still might take this win down. She's been dominant this year.
All I will say is that she might really, truly just be like, whatever, trying weird stuff. Like, I'm not going to be shocked if a wood specialist beats Kristen out here.
It could happen.
On a week like this.
Yeah. No, and we've seen folks like Lisa Fakis come up and have great weekends and be competitive. So it definitely could happen. But
I'm not betting on it, though.
No.
Who you taking an MPO?
MPO. If you want wood specialist, give me Andrew Marweed, baby. This is his stretch of the tour. Put him on your podium every week. He's going to show up. I love him for this weekend.
I saw somebody say recently, and I've been thinking about it. Is it unfair for the wood specialists to have to qualify and score a lot of points to get into the playoffs before they actually get to play the most wooded courses on the Disc Golf Pro Tour schedule?
I think it's a fair question. If you're not making the top 100, though, you're not on tour, right? Like, the top 100 is so easy to make. And if anything, I think it's actually a really equitable way, because now Andrew Marweed gets 2 tournaments that are weighted at 1.25
fair point
the weight.
Fair point.
And so yes, he has to wait till the end, but now his 2 tournaments where he can excel have the chance to accelerate him rapidly instead of playing 6 events. So, well, not 6, it would be 3 events, 4 events, etc. But whatever, you know what I mean. You got the point. So I think it's actually a pretty equitable system.
I buy that. If you can't make the top, I think, what is it, 72 for MVP?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just shouldn't. You're just not at that level.
You're not a wood specialist then.
You're just not a specialist.
Not on tour.
You're not that good.
You're a local pro.
I'm taking Joel Freeman. I think Joel Freeman has just been so close to winning, and like here he's one of the highest rated players, and he has shown it the ability to carve up woods. So I think Joel Freeman's going to get a little win here.
Okay. All right. I like it. Charlie, I'm going to add one more bonus segment. The Labor Day doubles hit an ace.
Wow.
Yeah. Took home $50 too. So always a nice week.
Let's go.
Yeah.
I am still aceless in my career.
Really?
There's one hole at Kisco. My New York people will know what I'm talking about. There's a very aceable hole. It's like a big valley and then come back up the other side, and the basket's straight across, and it's just a little putter shot right at it with slope, backstop behind. I've come very close to acing that hole, but I haven't actually done it. Otherwise, a lot of the courses I play a lot, just not a lot of aces out there. I mean, I'm not that good, so that's really what the problem is. But
double G ace is 500-foot holes. Why can't you, Charlie?
Come on, step up.
Everything's aceable.
Congrats.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
What was the hole and what was the disc?
Yeah. So Freeman Park in Idaho Falls, it's about 230 feet downhill into a grove of trees. There's kind of like a set of trees you got to kind of make in order in the gap. And then there's a grove of trees. It's really one you can just kind of throw in, and 9 times out of 10, it'll just get caught in the trees, and it's nice sandy, so it doesn't skip, and it's pretty easy. There is one gap at the back of the green though, and I thought I was a goner. Nicks a tree, redirects into the basket. A little cheap, I know, but I'll take it.
Wow.
I threw an infinite discs tomb. So one of my favorite throwing putters.
Beautiful.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Gotta give one a try.
For the cash money. You won the doubles?
Money. Won the doubles, yeah. Nice. We went 9 down through 9 on the first 9. and then just added gravy because second place only shot 8. So
We're in Upshot After Dark territory right now. Thank you, everybody. We're actually leaving now. Goodbye.